As you work towards becoming a master sewist, I know that you want to sew straight lines with even seam allowances. Let me show you how you can use your sewing machine to accomplish that. If you look at your throat plate, you will see here some numbers printed right on the throat plate in both metrics and imperial measuring systems. Taking your fabric, you can place the raw edge of your fabric against one of those measurements. Your sewing pattern will often tell you that the seam allowance is 5/8 of an inch, for example. If that's the case, place your raw edge along the 5/8 inch seam allowance guide on your throat plate and lower the presser foot. As you're sewing, make sure that the raw edge of the fabric follows that line all the way till the end. Another great feature of the throat plate on your machine is that the markings on it help you turn a square corner at 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. 5/8 of an inch seam allowance is a very common measurement for many sewing patterns here in the US. Take your fabric and place it into your machine, keeping with that 5/8 seam allowance that we just talked about. I'm going to turn my needle by hand using the hand wheel to drop the needle down into the fabric. And you can do this at any time if you just want to double check and make sure that the needle is going to fall exactly where you want it to. I'm going to remove the pin that I have in my fabric here because I don't need it, and I'm going to sew straight. So you'll see here as I'm sewing, I'm keeping my fabric right in line with the 5/8 seam allowance printed on my throat plate. And I'm gonna sew until I get to this mark at the edge of my throat plate. That mark is my turn point. So I can see that my fabric is just about to hit it, and I'm going to use my hand wheel to manually turn my fabric, or turn my needle. And now my needle is down. You want to ensure when you are ready to turn your fabric that the needle is down. So I'm going to, with the needle down, lift my presser foot, swing my fabric around, and you'll see here now that my raw edge is just lined up with that 5/8 inch seam allowance on the side of the machine. I'm going to continue sewing. And I can even, when I'm done, press and hold the reverse button. We know how to use that now. And then I'm gonna go to the hand wheel, bring my needle up to its highest position, lift the presser foot, pull my project out towards the back, using two hands, cut those thread tails. And then you can see here, we have a squared corner with a 5/8 inch seam allowance on both sides.